Welcome, welcome, welcome to the. Start that over.
Yeah, you're
I know we're gonna do that. Let's see. Welcome. Carolina listens to 87.9 Heat FM to the controversial show known as the Conflict Corner. At the Conflict Corner, we embrace conflict rather and run towards it rather than run from it. I'm your host, Walter Sean McDaniels, PhD candidate. Co-host is Jasmine Fan. Say hello to the people, Jasmine.
Hello, thank you for joining us on this Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. Today, our guest is someone that I am excited to introduce to you. I've known her for over a decade. And throughout the time that I've known her, she's basically been really active in trying to make sure that the people here in Columbia, South Carolina are doing well and doing well according to the right set of morals. And so I want to introduce to each of you Madam President of the Columbia branch here in South Carolina for the NAACP. Miss Madam President Glover, say hello to the people.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and I know this is going to be an exciting hour.
Absolutely. We're going to begin with some questions. And hopefully we'll be able to get rid of some of this feedback. Can y'all hear feedback?
No.
Okay. All right. So, Madam President Glover, we've known each other for quite some time and been nothing but impressed with you in terms of like your efforts. I think the people here, both in the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina, as well as Georgia and across the globe, would love to know a little bit more about the person. Is that okay? Give us a little bit of your background and where you're from and basically, what led you up into this point.
Well, Sean and Jasmine, and to your audience, I am, as you said, Lydia Oveta Glover. Victoria, I can't leave that one out. There was a love thing going on between my parents. That's how I got named. But in reference to where I came from, I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. I was one of the first to integrate the public schools for South Carolina. Charleston was the catalyst. During that time, at the age of 6 years old, which was in 1960, am I telling my age? 1960. We attempted to integrate the schools in Charleston. There was three of them. It was the elementary, junior high, and the high school students. Um, that was the same year that all of you should know Ruby Bridgers. So what I call myself is the South Carolina Ruby Bridgers because we attempted the same year. She was successful. Um, we failed because of some technicalities, transferring from one school to the other, which was back in that time you had to get a letter from the principal to take to another school's principal. And what happened? The letter from the black school principal, and I was trying to integrate the school that was right across the street from where we lived on Rutledge Avenue. He did not put the school's name in it. So that's a story in itself, but that's why we had to go back and sit around the table where we actually integrated the schools in 1963. And there were 11 of us that went into the different schools, elementary, junior high, and high schools. And I always say that being a part of the NAACP is in my DNA. My grandfather, the late Reverend Alonzo Wright, was the first president for the South Carolina State Conference NAACP. My father, he was president both at two different times, both in Columbia and in Charleston. So I had there was no escape. I could have disappeared and try to push it aside as long as I could until I just heard my father, who's passed, the Reverend Dr. B.J. Glover, say, "Hey, why are you running? This is what I'm hearing. Somebody's got to do it." So I took up the torch and ran for office for the Columbia branch NAACP, and this is where I am with that at this point. But as a child, I've always been told that I'm always bringing somebody home. Stray dog, stray person, next door neighbor, it doesn't matter. So I say that to say that I was a people person, regardless of what avenue I took. I have also been an owner of a restaurant lounge, so just the different areas. And I've been in the school system as well as a teacher. So all of them deal with what? People. So it just goes to show that I'm that people person, and it's quick for me to adjust to whatever situation it is. And I don't take no for an answer. Right, Sean?
Absolutely. Abs- Absolutely. Okay. Appreciate that introduction. Let me just let's dive right into it. We understand now based on what you've given us that there's legacy involved for you. There's rich history within your family. I've had the great fortune of having a personal relationship with your father before his passing, and hearing some of the horror stories and the success stories as it relates to the struggle here in South Carolina. Here at the Conflict Corner, we pretty much apply conflict resolution strategies to identifying, assessing, and moving towards a resolution for conflict. And so we know that that's pretty much synonymous to what the NAACP stands for, and that's as a safeguard, if you will, for those individuals who cannot uh, who need an additional voice to speak up for them. And so with that said, we're in a time where conflict is all around us. There's discomfort between law enforcement and the community. There's discomfort within the education system. Whatever system you want to pick, there's discomfort in, and there are some there's some issues of equality and equity when it comes to these systems. But I want to talk about directly, with that in mind, what are the action items of the Columbia branch of the NAACP?
Well, let me start with this, Sean. Let's clarify what the NAACP acronym stand for. Okay, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People is what that acronym is for. NAACP. Now, the mission for the NAACP is to secure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights in order to eliminate race-based discrimination and ensure the health and well-being of all persons. And the vision for the NAACP is also to ensure a society in which all individuals have equal rights without discrimination based on race. And I always like to say NAACP, and this is my thought and feeling, sees no color, because the mission and the vision is to help those people of human race. Basically became um, uh, people of color, meaning African Americans, uh, and brown people, because we were in the fight so much that Caucasian, it was actually started. I'm just giving you a little history of the NAACP right now, so folks can understand that too. It was actually started by a group of Caucasians who invited in Ida B. Wells and W.D. Du Bois, so they could be the front persons. They were people of color in their site. So this is where it all started, but it was actually started because of that Springfield riot in New York, and it began in 1909. The organization is as strong, it has been strong, and to me, my belief is that it will always be strong. We just have to join hands and keep it strong, so that we can have this plight, this base, to come to, go out to, in reference and to help people of color, any color. It doesn't matter what color you identify with, the NAACP accepts you. So some of the things that we are doing here, Columbia branch, right now, I have to harbor on it because our eviction uh, is so wide advanced and it's getting worse. So we were chosen by the National NAACP to be the catalyst to do a housing navigator program. That program, no, we don't have monies, but we'll get you to the money. Exactly what the word says. We navigate you through the systems that you need to get to in order to receive your help if you are being evicted. Prior to eviction, eviction time, and even post eviction, you'll be able to contact us and we can try to get you, navigate you, I want to use that word, to where you need to be going. Funding, legal assistance, good old customer service. I harbor on customer service because sometimes people just call and need a listening ear in order to get through what they're going through. And like I mentioned earlier, it's vast. It's that eviction, since the moratoriums have been lifted, people misunderstood what that was all about. The monies that they were receiving, they spent them on shoes, weave, whatever else, except for trying to put it aside and keeping themselves homed, in house. So right now, that's what we're going through, and I want to encourage those that are listening in the Richland County area, Columbia, South Carolina. You will be able to call and get some assistance. We have partnered with attorneys that are doing pro bono, so it won't cost you if you come through this particular system. We have partnered with different entities that have financing, and they are refueling themselves. So don't stop because you hear that nobody has any money. Believe me, they are becoming refueled. So you need to do the process in order for you to be um, assisted in the manner that you need. A lot of them have legal matters going, so that doesn't cost you anything. That's why I encourage those to call in, to do that, and call into the branch to do that. One of the other things too is that I'm harboring, the torch has to be passed. Don't let this gray hair fool you up in here. I'm still kind of, I still can move around, but I'm going to have to eventually pass the torch, and we've got to train our young adults. The youth council at the end of their levels of the NAACP. We have youth councils, young adult, general membership, executive committee, and all of these folks, and everybody is trained. There's a training for everyone. So that touch, I'm going back to the youth, young adults, so that they'll know what to do. And in order to be trained, they need to become a part of. So I'm trying to encourage those young adults aged 21 to 40. I know you all is probably past that, but I still want you to become a part of all of that, which you are. So if you're listening to my voice right now, the NAACP has been around since 1909. We're not going anywhere. Contrary to what you think, let me rest the myth right now. We are active. We not only hit the ground, and we haven't been because of COVID, and COVID has stopped everything, but We have been at the table with legislators, um, uh, addressing this housing issue, addressing the redistricting, which is another issue that we are going through right now that is very important. And everybody, if you hear that word, you need to stop and listen to what's being said. Because not only will it affect you right now, but it's going to affect your children 10 years from now. So when you see that um, the censors come around, go ahead and do what you're supposed to do. And we have a project that's going on now and will be going on for the next couple of years, and if not longer. And it's our vote is our voice. And we want you to get out and vote so you can be heard. You can't be heard if you're sitting around and just talking about it and say something like this. It's just one vote. It's not going to matter. My one vote won't matter. But that's crazy to me. Your one vote might be the change. So take that myth or take that thought of mine and throw it away or step on it, do whatever you do, get rid of it because it's not a good thought. And it's why we are some of the reason why we are where we are right now. So our challenge to everybody and my challenge to the Columbia branch as well is that we speak the same language. We all have to speak the same language to be heard. I'm just one person. I can't say it all. But if you tell me what to say, I will try to get it out there and have it heard for you as well. Because I can say, we say, this is. And we meaning the general public, meaning the citizens, is what that word we means to me. So I said a lot just now.
Go ahead, Jasmine. You got a question for her?
Yeah, I do. So first, I want to go back whenever you said that you hope that you're not showing your age. I can assure everyone here that she is not showing her age at all whatsoever. She looks incredible. She is very youthful. So don't let her fool you there. Uh, was there a defining moment for you when you decided to go into your presidency and lead this organization? Was there a certain I know you said before that your dad and your grandfather are both presidents. Was there a certain moment where you're like, this is my time, or was it just you were kind of pushed into it? What can you kind of take us down that path?
Right, for the branch.
For that branch.
Yes, I well, attending meetings and seeing how everything was being run and that kind of stuff, and knowing that some of the issues that we are facing right now, we will be getting into, and the branch was they were doing their thing, but it wasn't doing it enough. And I just felt like I could move it a little faster by bringing some other people to get them involved with the desire to help the citizens of Richland County. And that's where I am with that. And that's what prompted me to run. Now, the very first time I ran, I lost, but that didn't take me away. In fact, that made me get stronger, and I ran again and was able to win at this point. Now I've been serving for 3.5 years now. It's almost time to get reelected. Hello, everybody, and I do have that desire, and we'll take full advantage of it again to keep the branch moving forward the way it has been. We brought it up to a 2000 level, with the Facebooks, all of the social media, that kind of stuff has been implemented, and we continue to try to get that information out through those medias to do so. So that's what prompted me. I saw the need for Oveta Glover. And you said it a little earlier, I got a lot of spunk to me, and Sean knows I don't take no for an answer. So, and that's how we have been able to develop some of the things that we have done at this point. We also have another project that we are involved in. I'm not at liberty to say what it is, but I think when that opens up, everybody will be shaking their heads to, okay, we see what they have been doing. So it's a couple of other things that we're doing. And I just want to let everyone know that we are in motion. We are in motion. And as often as I can, I do say what I can on behalf of the branch. Um, so that's what prompted me, really. I saw the need for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely. Just I want to go back to what you brought up earlier in reference to the Columbia Housing Navigation Program, and you basically put a charge out there to the people for them to, you know, to come out and take advantage of the services that are available. What are some of the challenges? What do you think is stopping the people from coming out? What do you think some of those challenges are?
Some of the things, when you do an intake, we have to do an intake. Say, I'm going to use you for an example, Sean. You would call in and say that you are facing eviction. Okay? Sean may have been arrested for whatever, serve some time or something. And people think that that type of thing will keep them from being serviced, but that's not the case. So we are trying to get that myth out of the way too. We want you to call in and make sure that you go through the process. Now, your initial process will take about 45 minutes. And I talked to a man the other day, and as I was trying to take him through something, through the process, he said, "Oh, y'all asking too many questions. I don't want you to know that." But they were simple questions. And I mean, simple questions like where you live, do you have a bank account, when's your last job, do you work, how many children you have, and that kind of stuff, so we can get a general picture of what he and his family needed in the assistance that they needed. But that ran him away, and I'm hoping that he will call back because he has an issue and they need to get above what the past was, and let's work toward this future to try to keep you in home. And that's one of the major issues. People are saying that the questioning is too deep, but not only for us. If they were to go to anybody else, the same type of questions to another entity would be asked. We are like the liaison. We are like the in-between person. We get all of that out of the way, make you comfortable with asking and answering questions so we can get you to Jasmine, who has that $10 that you might need in order to stay in your home. Or Mr. McDaniels, who's the attorney, who will hear your case and assist you in that way. So that is a major issue, Sean, to answer your question with that. Just the fact that they're being questioned. And folks think that they can just call and say, "Hey, I'm McDaniels and I'm being evicted and I need $10." It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work.
I got you.
So I'm just going to encourage those that need the assistance now that might be hearing under the sound of my voice. Don't be afraid to tell your story. It might be the best one to get you where you need to go in order to get the assistance that you need.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's I want to dive into, let's just go ahead and dispel some of these rumors the uh that the Columbia branch of the NAACP doesn't serve the people, doesn't, like, we don't know where you are, we don't hear you. What kind of, clearly this Columbia Housing Navigation Program is clear evidence of, it's about, it's that there is some activity, that there is activity. But just what are some of the rumors that you hear that you're like, look, enough is enough. Let's go ahead and let's dispel those rumors right now, so that the people who may have lost faith in the Columbia branch need to know what the truth is right now.
The truth is, the Columbia branch is on the ground at tables, I should say, and we are working that way. And I would be the first to say this disease, this COVID, is keeping everybody quiet and not moving. So when we get ready to strike, most folks are accustomed to the NAACP on the ground, marching, doing rallies, and that's what people are looking for. But when we have done a couple of them prior to us actually shutting down before because of COVID, but we were not shutting down. We still work. We do have an office. So that is something we haven't had in several years, an office. We do have an office now. Our committees, we have 19 to 20 committees that are active. And their activity, especially the education, we have met with the school councils, school boards, both Richland 1, 2, and 5. We have done several forums. So we are in movement that kind of way. We are using our social platform. I encourage people to go to YouTube and pull up some of the things that we have done that way so they will see. When it's time for us to get on the street and do what people are expecting and want to hear the choir sing, that's what I call it, because that's all it is hearing somebody singing. Our actual movement should be with the legislators. Our action movement should be talking to the sheriff, the city council, the county council, um, um, the sheriff department, the police department, some of the legislators. So we've been with them to let them know, hey, yes, we are with you, or no, we are not with you. So
Absolutely.
that's what we are doing at this point. We're there, we are working, and we're going to be seen. You might become tired of seeing us. So when you get to that point, then I need for you to call me and let me know that you're tired of seeing me. But when I say me, I mean the NAACP. I know
Absolutely.
the young people, the youth, the young adults are on fire. They are ready to hit the streets and do those visuals. And in fact, we had a visual and planning another one. But, to do the physical type things, and that's what people are accustomed to seeing the NAACP do, along with the other things that we are doing now. So don't worry, you will be seeing us physically, but be ensured that we are doing things behind the door at the legislative tables, talking to the different people that I just said with you as well.
Absolutely. And you said something key that I want to just focus on a little bit. You used the term working with. And I can tell you that some of the people, I have I guess I have a relationship with the different age groups within Columbia, just based on my professional background and some of my community service. And when I talk to older people, and when I say older people, I'm talking about 70 and above. When I talk to those individuals who are still active, your use of the word working with, like you mentioned legislators and you mentioned law enforcement, I just think it's important to know how important that is, that there's a difference between partnering with someone and working with them. When you are a partner with someone, then when they go down, you go down. And so that's not what we're here for. We're willing to work with those individuals, and correct me if I'm wrong, or you can definitely expound on it. We're not here to partner with agencies that we're supposed to basically work with to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And when they're not doing the right thing, the Columbia branch of the NAACP is there to tell them about it and to work with them to fix the problem, and and if they're not willing to work with us to fix the problem, and then of course that leaves everything open for additional steps and a different strategy, if you will. But there's I think that's the biggest rumor that I've run into, and trying to get people to see the direction of your administration here at the Columbia branch, is that they see, they've seen in the past, rather, that sure, they had some issues with, what are we doing? Like, what are we calling these people to the carpet when we see bad videos come out? I know for a fact that there were 4 separate incidents between Columbia Police Department and the Richland County Sheriff's Department, where not only did you and the members of your branch to include myself, not only did we meet with those individuals, but we began to work with those individuals to make sure that the things got fixed, and that there is sustainable and transformational change in the making. And so that's important, to not just respond to things in a knee-jerk fashion, but to first get the facts and to first have a conversation with individuals that are responsible. So with that said, I want to ask you, what steps do you take when an incident happens in the community and you get that phone call or that email or that text message saying, what are y'all gonna do? Please tell the people, what are those steps that you take as a branch leader to ensure that we are working, even though it may not be seen in the forefront? What steps do you typically take to address a social ill that pops up by way of like a video or a phone call, or like the situation at the that we're dealing with now with the jail and things of that nature? What steps do you normally take as a branch?
Well, as a branch, first the branch has to decide whether we are going to actually deal with whatever situation it is. The terms that you use, working with and partnership, there is a difference in that. When you're working with somebody, you probably have a pretty good relationship with that entity. So you'll be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, Sean, I'm not taking no for an answer, and I need an answer about this. I'm being a little comical about it, but understand where I'm going. In order to work with, you have to have a relationship. You have to have that relationship that says, we agree to disagree. Okay? And I want you to know that we are not afraid. When we need to tell you no about something, that no is coming out. I mean, I'm going to square my back off and say no, and look you in the eye and say no. That's not what. And I'm speaking on behalf of the branch. Now, if I have to succumb and sit back and say, okay, let's talk about this, help me understand a little better so I can explain to those that need to be explained to, and that's the Columbia branch and the people of the city as well, because whether you're a member or not, I'm representing everyone, and that's just my thought frame, because a lot of people don't understand. So the working with relationship. Now the partnership is okay. This is what's going to happen. Which one of us is the stronger part of, and there's basically not a very good relationship. And you with me, Sean? Y'all with me? There's not a very good relationship there. Everybody has a focus with the relationship and the working with. There's a focus there as well, but the relationship and working with has a little stronger focus to me for us to get something done. Partnerships, you're going to have those disagreements, and one's probably going to pull out because it's not going that way, the way that they think it should be going. And that's just old um, an old experiences that I've had. So I try to stay away from partnerships. All right, and I'm trying to keep the branch in a relationship with those entities that we need to have the relationship with. Okay, I'm even down to, hey, it's time for you to join the NAACP. How we can have a relationship? You want me to come over to da 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 da? You know what I mean? So that's the type of thing that I try to utilize. Just develop a relationship in order for us to work with them.
Absolutely. Thank you for that breakdown of basically how decisions are made for the branch and determining which social ills to address. Jasmine, go ahead and jump in, and I know you've heard a lot of connecting terms used to our field in conflict resolution. When you talk about relationships and and the need to have a relationship where both parties are seeking to collaboratively figure out what the solution could be. That speaks directly to what we do, not just within the mediation firm, but also here at the Conflict Corner, where we talk about using strategies that are consistent with the field of conflict resolution.
Yeah. So I hear your difference in the partnerships and the reasoning why you don't do those partnerships whenever you do have disagreements, or even whenever you're having those relationships with the people that you are wanting to work with rather than partner with. How do you handle those conflicts and the disagreements besides just saying we're going to agree to disagree? How do you work through those conflicts and those disagreements and those things that can really escalate? How do you try to minimize those, or do you bring in a practitioner to kind of uh, settle things down, or how do you just automatically say no, we're done, and walk out? How do you negotiate those tactics? How do you handle those situations?
And
Well,
if I may, real quick, Oveta, before you begin, all right. So let me just tell you, let me share this with you from behind the scenes a little bit, because I'm one of the individuals that'll get the phone call or the text message from Oveta. All right. So the first thing that she does is that she actually sounds the alarm. She sounds the alarm for a small number of individuals. Listen, this is what I got. This is what I need you to start focusing on. Go ahead and start your research right now. Let's figure it out. And then now, Oveta, go ahead. What do you do after that?
I- that was a good bring up. There goes that I don't take no for an answer. But yeah, we do our research first, okay? From the jump, like Sean said, and that's so that we won't go out there dumbfounded um, into a partnership. Even when we are in a partnership and something comes up, I'll do exactly what Sean just said. Hey, I'm stumbling. I need to be able to walk through this, and you all are going to need to help me do this. So, do your research, give me a suggestion of what needs to be done, and then we'll sit around the table again with the partner to see if we can make an adjustment there. But if not, if we don't have our MOAs and MOUs together, then we need to draw up that MOA and MOU in order for us to move forward. In actuality, we try to have one of those prior to us going into a partnership, so that if it ever comes up, we can pull that MOA or MOU up and say, hey, we're not following this. And we need to get back where we can follow what we said, both of us said that we were going to do. And you're trying to take it in a different direction, or even if it's us trying to take it in a different direction, then we need to regroup and come back to the direction that we both said we would go into. So that's basically how we move forward. And Jasmine, I'll be the first to say that's why I'm surrounded by those that know the different areas that we have, so I can introduce a Mr. Sean McDaniels or Miss Jasmine Platt and say, hey, you the expert at this. This is what happens. How should we move toward this or come out of this? Um, uh, I'm not an expert, but I will say what you tell me to say. you know, I'm abreast of everything, but I'm not the expert about them. So that's what needs to have been done, and that's what we do. That's what I'm making sure that that's being done on behalf of the branch, the people of the branch, too.
Whenever you're having these discussions within your board or within your branch, do you call upon people, say the conflict is a legal matter, do you call upon attorneys that are members of the branch, or do you have attorneys on the board and call those for research, or do you have a diverse background of different people for
We
the
have a committee that's called Legal Redress. That is, it has different attorneys that will serve pro bono and that will give us any type of advice that we need to have. And then when people call in with complaints, those same attorneys will be the ones that we refer them to. Again, it's pro bono unless it's way above and they need to do some investing in that particular case. But yes, to answer your questions, we do have legal assistance and people that are willing to say, hey, yay, no, don't touch it, yes, touch it, grab it, run with it, or whatever we need to do at the time to do so, and to assist others that may, because people call in too We have different committees, and I just mentioned one, which was legal redress, and we get all kinds of calls with that particular committee. You know, incarcerated people wanting to say that they were falsely incarcerated, or someone that might be headed that direction, or someone that just got out of. You know, those are calls that we get. Landlord problems, um, work problems, that kind of stuff. So we deal with a vast of different situations on the legal matters. That we can do. Now, what we cannot do is give you legal advice. What we can do is refer you to one of those persons that are connected with us, attorney wise, and in the different areas that they may be specializing in. And that's what we do. Because we don't give you legal advice because we don't want you to say, we don't want Jasmine to say that, well, your legal redress people said I had a good case and da 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 da, however it might be. And if it was her or him, I would take this step, da da da. We can't do that. That puts us in an area that could destroy us down the street.
Right, it's a high liability.
Yes, liability is the word. Yes.
Gotcha.
So this is what the NAACP does. We navigate. I'm liking that word more and more and more because that is, and if it's a civic issue that we can take on, you know, if it's a battle of some sort, then yes. And then we have steps that we have to follow in order to take on Jasmine's issue that's involved civically. Okay? So that's where we are. So it's a fine comb, you know, combing your hair, but once we put our foot into it, you best believe something is going to be done about it.
Let's talk about the committees that you have currently active within the Columbia branch of the NAACP. What are some of those committees, and what are they talking about? What are they focused on right now?
We have, excuse me, we have active. We can have up to 21. Nationally, has 21 committees. We have 19. Education. We have religious services, religious affairs. We have criminal justice, economic development. We have housing, membership, the youth council, young adults committees. These are all committees. Veterans Affairs. We've got a strong Veterans Affairs committee that's becoming stronger, you know, to do just that, to focus on veterans and getting them the help and helping them navigate through the things that they may need to navigate through as a veteran. Those are some of the ones that we have, like health. We have a pretty good health committee as well. Public safety and criminal justice. Mr. McDaniels is our criminal justice chair. Voting rights. We that's some of the game changers that we're naming. I'll name those in a little while. Our political action committee is very strong. It's becoming stronger now. So this is the season for the Columbia branch NAACP 2022. You asked to be seen. For us to be seen, you will be seen. Those committees are on the ground. In fact, they are. I have charged them with connecting. They all have goals, similar goals. So I've charged them with connecting. So when we do hit the street running, there will be strength in numbers with the different committees that we have. Because all of them have, you know, different avenues that they have to walk, but they meet in one direction, going in one direction. So those are some of the ones that say our game changers, our national game changers is economics, sustainability, education, health, public safety and criminal justice, voting rights and political presentations, and expanding youth and young adults. And that's my baby right there. That's what I really want to see become strong this 2022. I've been working on it since 2019. The first time that the branches ever had a young adult committee. Came under my time, and so I'm working with them as best as I can. They're on fire. They're ready to hit the street. So those are our foot soldiers. They will be our foot soldiers as well. But the, and it's open. And you know what? You don't have to be a member to attend the meetings. Okay, we want you to come and attend the meetings so you can see what the branch is doing and what it's all about. Our meetings are not meetings where all you hear is committee reports, 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 reports. Each committee has to do a presentation, you know, and in that presentation, something that has happened might be brought forward, and forums may be held in reference to whatever the program is all about. Committee. Did I do good?
It was perfect. And I know it's important. You're really emphasizing young adults. Are there certain issues or conflicts that you're seeing with young adults that you're wanting to address, or how are you planning to go about doing more with the young adults?
Well, frankly, the young adults have the same issues all of us have, and they are the ones. I'm charging now young adult committee to really harbor on getting people out to vote. Our vote is our voice, and that is our theme for our campaign. And I'm really trying to put it in their hands and the political action hands. But that's what I want them to concentrate on. They can speak the language. I might say AND, and they might say which the young adults will understand that before they understand the AND. Hear what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we got to utilize them in some way because they can speak the languages that I can't speak, even though I'm learning and I'm learning pretty good how to use that instead of that and. But so I'm charging them with that specific. I don't want them to get overwhelmed because that is a heavy task. How to get someone to the polls is a heavy task. We can get them registered to vote, yes, but are they going to use that card that they receive in order to vote? Do what they have the card for. And especially with the laws that are coming through, they don't want you giving them water. They don't want you giving them a chair to sit in. You know, all of these type things. Some of the states are banning that kind of activity. Hadn't got to us quite yet, but that's where we need to speak up and out about how do we get those folks there. I'm going to encourage people under the sounds of my voice now to utilize the absentee ballots. There's no reason for you not to vote. None. They have given us opportunities. We just need to take full advantage of it. And for the more seasoned person that may be handicapped, see, we don't even touch those people, and it's just a matter of reaching out to them. If they know how to write their name, and you can sit and have a conversation with them and say, Jasmine is a person from Kalamazoo who's lived here in Columbia, South Carolina. She has worked this area, da 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 da. Her MO is whatever it is. And then we could turn right over to the next page and look at Walter McDaniels and says, he's a resident of this area. Da, da. We can't tell them who to vote for, but we can educate them on who is running. And that's what I've charged the young adults to do. Educate and try to get them out to vote.
So in that same vein, let's talk about the strategy that we use to make that happen. So there's a theorist and practitioner by the name of Dr. Becky Bailey, who talks about a strategy of dealing with the youth called conscious discipline. And so just if you just indulge me for a moment, basically it conscious discipline is about getting speaking to a child's the frontal lobe is where they make most of their decisions. And if you're talking about our young folk, for young people, for young females between the age of 21 and 23, that's when this part of their brain where they make their sound decisions. We're talking about voting and things of that nature, sound decisions, right? But they operate predominantly for males. It's 25 to 27. So we mature a lot at a more slower rate than females do. And so once that snaps and they see the importance of their civic duty, like voting and things of that nature. Until then, we have to come up with ideas that speak to the emotional part, the desire part, the feeling, the survival part of their brains, because the world is speaking to them. It's speaking to that part of their brains. It speaks to their survival. You can listen to some of the lyrics that we hear in the music today. It speaks to their emotional side and their desire side. And so we've got to come up with strategies that speak to that. So they don't just want to show up and vote. They want to show up and, where, it speaks to that part of their brain. And so typically when it comes to our youth, they're very competitive by nature. They're very competitive by nature. If you turn any assignment that I have for my college students, I'm giving away some of my tricks in the classroom, but the truth matter is that when I want them to really retain something, I turn it into a competition. We're going to have impromptu debates right there. I'll ask a simple question. What do you believe in? What do you believe in? Okay, all right, you two. All right, who else believes in this side? Up to the front, let's go. And you could see how active they become, how engaged, how much they're internalizing the lesson. And I can ask them about that same lesson months later, and they still remember when they had to compete. And so we need to start speaking to the pleasure parts of their brain, so that we can make the pleasure list. We're not on the pleasure list. Voting is not on the pleasure list for them. They don't see the unfortunate, and I'm not just talking about the numbers of students you're working with. I'm talking about the masses, the young people beyond the Columbia branch of the NAACP. I'm talking about how do we use those students to speak to the pleasure parts of the brain of the child, so that we can get them. So is it in the form of a competition? Is it in the form of is it a COVID pandemic, driven, conscious gathering? Everyone seems, to get an I voted sticker, because getting them registered, you're right, we're doing that. However, how are we ensuring that they're voting, and how are we able to truly get an accurate assessment of the power of the young people's vote? We don't have an accurate assessment right now of the power of it if we don't have the majority of them actually engage in that. So my question to you is, what is the branch willing to do to tap into the pleasure parts of their brain? Like, do we have, a party for them? Again, COVID protected, but do we have something for them after they vote? Or do we have a competition? How many people did you go with? How many people did you get together to go vote? And give something for the group that had the most individuals that came back with an I voted sticker. And then we can start collecting numbers, Madam President. We can collect numbers, and we'll be able to say, in Columbia, South Carolina, we had 1,876 young people between the age of 18 and 21 that voted. That's huge. That type of data is huge. And so what can we do? What are you willing to entertain to speak to the pleasure parts of their brain?
So, good question, Sean, which I am going to say this is somewhat of what I've charged the Young Adult Committee to do, to come up with ideas on how to indulge other young adults. I'm first to say, let's throw a party. That's just, to those that I'm being facetious. But I agree. They have to have, their hands are always out. Say they always want to receive something. Okay? When I say they, I'm speaking of the younger adults, the young
Naturally,
adults.
right.
And so they are accustomed to, don't say that, but the young adults um, need to be fed, and they need to receive. All right, it's almost like a newcomer coming to Columbia, South Carolina. And I gave this to somebody that called me in to have a conversation with them because they were brand new to this city, and they were in a position where they needed to get into Columbia, South Carolina. And I always say this about Columbia. Columbia is cliquish. Columbia loves to eat, and Columbia loves to be pat on the back. If you can intertwine those three things, you can walk in on any avenue in Columbia, South Carolina, and basically get what you need to get. And this is what I said: if we can feed them, pat them on the back, and get them a part of this clique, then we can get those numbers that you're talking about, Sean, because they will feel a part of, and that's what they want to do. People in general really want to feel a part of, meaning that they have a say in. And another thing that I always say, children mimic what they see and hear. If they haven't been hearing the importance of voting, they're not going to react to it as quickly as if they have been hearing it. So that's where we all come in. We've just got to talk about why it is important, not just go vote, but why it is important to vote. Just like with the redistricting. I say when they did the 2010 census, they started drawing those lines in 2011. Here it is in 2022. And in 2021, they said, okay, y'all go ahead and draw your lines and bring them to us. And let's try to match them and see where we can go with them. In actuality, we should have been teaching back in 2020, 2010 that because what the lines that they drew affected us till 2020. They came again in 2020 and did the census, and people would not take the census like they're supposed to take. All of this matters. And those are the type things that we need to be teaching those of us that understanding, and this is what the branch is going to take a hold of and has been trying to. We've had several forums in reference of all of the above and going to continue to do that. That's the only way, Mr. McDaniels, that I see at this point that we can assist anybody, educate them. That's the strongness of trying to get people to vote. Because if you don't know, you won't go. Uh, that's a good saying. If you don't know, you won't go. Okay, I got to write that down. um, I don't know whether I hit what you're trying to develop with that question, Sean, but I think that yes, we need to be able to say if you go vote, you will receive, or we're going to have this big bash, and we want you to organize it. Give them something to do to take part in it, or some
Right.
leaders around this town.
Or even to compete in it. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you. You know me enough, Oveta, to know that just because someone bears the same phenotype or the same skin complexion or what have you and is in a position of leadership, that doesn't automatically make them for us, right? And
Right.
It doesn't automatically make them sometimes they're just very, it's just if you look into the lifestyle of these individuals, their beliefs and their practices are not consistent with what their platform seems to portray. And so to assume that these leaders have a relationship with our youth, I think it's an awful assumption that it's based on nothing really. I don't see them actually. I don't see political leaders going after the youth like we should, and I think that we should be the hub, if you will, for the young folk, where and educating them on the importance of voting through fun driven activities, through competitive activities. They're amazing. Their minds are amazing if we give them the information. If we begin to create those events and those types of experiences for them that taps into their pleasure list and to the things. The world is already pulling them. The world is already pulling them in so many negative ways. We can spend all day talking about that. And they're making money off of it. They're making money off of pulling our children in one direction. And yet, we're not doing enough in pulling them in our direction and letting them see the power in voting. And so I'm all for, a competitive bash, it's a party, but it's filled with competition, different trophies and things of that nature. Clearly we want to obey the laws associated with voting and, not have these types of bashes near voting centers. But no, we're talking about afterwards. If you voted, then come in and enjoy. So this is where older folk who are here, and I'm gonna speak to them directly. Sometimes, Oveta, the heart is willing, but the body is unable. It's just that simple. And I'm talking, I can name a list of them. The heart is willing and the body is unable. So here, listen, we've dispelled all the rumors about the Columbia branch of the NAACP. Yes, very active, very, very active in a number of different ways. You heard from Madam President Oveta Glover's mouth herself, the list of committees that you can actually come and join and be actively engaged. And if you can't physically come, then there's also other ways to contribute, but at least make the phone call to see where you get in, where you fit in. Because, these events that we're talking about having, they cost money too. They cost money. And if you can't be present, there's nothing wrong with contributing to the cost of a trophy for a young person who happened to have brought in 100 voters themselves, because they were competing with how many people can they get to the polls amongst the young people. And yet this individual brought in 100, and another individual brought in 127, and another individual brought in 200. And I'm telling you, our young people are very powerful and very resourceful when it comes to getting the word out. And so, that's where the older generation and the younger generation can work together, like what we talk about in conflict resolution and the practice of conflict resolution. That's a mutual collaborative effort towards fixing a conflict, towards trying to make sure we each get what we want in that regard. Older people want to see more voters, and the younger people want to have, a little competition every now and then. They want a little reward. They're extrinsic in nature these days, more so than intrinsic. And so the older generation have got to stop expecting young people to want to do things because it feels good. No, they're extrinsic. They want rewards. They want to be pat on the back. They want to be able to be acknowledged. And so when we talk about doing these things, we're talking about bringing both generations together to work towards one goal. And that is to develop a strong voting base for young people. And that will then get the attention of these mediocre politicians that supposedly lead us. But we only see them towards when it's time to get, me, Oveta, I'll give it to them. And so listen, you only see them when it's time to, to vote for them, but you never see them during the middle of their term. You'll see a little, anyway, don't get me on top of that. But my point to you is this: know that we're watching you, okay? We know who you are, and we want to support those who need our help, because just because you might be mediocre doesn't mean you can't use our help. You can use our help. We want to help everyone that is moving towards affecting change. And I'm so excited to have had you here today, Madam President Glover. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for sharing that rich history with us. Want to give Jasmine one more chance to speak, and then of course you one last chance to speak, and then we're going to go ahead and close out this particular show of the Conflict Corner. Jasmine, say something to the people.
Yeah, again, thank you again for taking the time out on this Sunday afternoon to be able to speak to not only Sean and I, but to the entire world about the impact and influence that you have, and to not only be in this leadership position, but to have you on during Women's History Month. It's such an honor to be here with you. So thank you for that.
Well, I thank you all for having me out. My father always, that Sean knows, always said, baby, it's only one you. You better take full advantage of it. So I'm taking full advantage of any call that I get. Any chance that I'm able to tell my stories, that's what he was going towards. And always tell your story, because only you can tell your story. And I say that to anybody that's under the sound of my voice. Tell your story. It may help someone with some conflict, and that might help them resolve it if you have a story that's similar to it, and they just be a listening ear. And I want to dispel the myth again that the NAACP, the NAACP, see, I'm still practicing, is live. We are live and kicking all over the United States and across those waters too. So don't think that we're not doing anything. It's just like anything else with the COVID. We haven't been able to move physically, but we will be moving physically. And right here in Columbia, South Carolina, you will be hearing and seeing more of us. I might be up front, but I may pull Sean because he's the Criminal Justice Committee chair to do say what we have to be said on behalf of the branch. That's how I work. That's how we work together. We utilize each other. And that's the way it should be. The young adults, I'm on them like white on rice. If they were listening now, they'll probably be shaking their heads. Yes, because I want them to take the torch that needs to be held, and with them taking the torch, they're pulling somebody else with them and moving forward to get all of this voting, all of the redistricting, everything that needs to be heard in their language can be heard. And it's very important. Sean, yes, we might be have to throw a big bash or something afterwards. I'm down. I can't dance, but I can sure sit there and look at you dance or whatever. Yep, yep, yep. I can move those shoulders. But whatever it's going to take, we as a seasoned people need to grab hold to what the young people are saying and help them get it done. Period. That's the only way we are going to survive with anything, not only with the NAACP, but with anything in the school system. Look, they don't even want us to teach Black history in the school. I'm about to get crazy.
Don't get.
Cause so I'm just being jovial, but why not? History is history. It doesn't matter what color it is. Everybody needs to know about everybody so we can live together and get moved the way that this God given world wants us to move. And we can't do it if we keep separating. I see the school system. I think I'm biting my tongue now. But I see the school system going back to when I integrated the schools. The purpose wasn't just to go into a Caucasian school or white school, and I see that little boy that stuck me in my hip too as I was walking down the hallway. That's another story. But it was all about getting equal, equal teachers getting paid. It was all about having those books that weren't torn out and had Mary Sue's name all written all through it. It was all about being able to have the school supplies as the white schools had. That's what the integration was all about. And it behooves me when I hear people talk about you never should have integrated the schools. Okay, that's another subject too. Don't now I get fired up on that one. But I want to say this. Thank you again for having me on. I I am very adamant about the NAACP right now because we are the avenue that can take us forward. We are the avenue that have brought us to this point and encourage those of you that are not members to become members, or at least to become work with us. Come work with us and gain a relationship that you can. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. And we thank you again for being here, Madam President. To our listeners, 87.9 Heat FM, the Conflict Corner, again, where we run towards and embrace conflict rather than run from it. Thank you for listening to another great show. And Madam President, we hope to have you back one day. Like, listen, we want to really peel those layers back on critical race theory. And we just had a show down at the State House. I'll call it that. And we're, we're watching it carefully on what they're going to do with respect to pulling critical race theory out of the schools and where they stand on that. But we want to just, again, do our research first and let's see where the evidence lie before we start talking about it and critically assessing it. Anyway, thanks again. We hope to have you again. Listen, you're always a friend to those of us at the Conflict Corner, and to our people and to our listeners. Come back to the Conflict Corner. Thank you.